Well, with me here in the studio is Charles Sabine, who was tested positive for Huntington's in 2005 and has since worked to raise awareness and support for scientific research into the disease. And Charles, thank you so much for being here with me. I wonder if you would start by just describing for people who are watching just how prevalent Huntington's has been in terms of your wider family.
Everyone in my family who could have tested positive for the disease did, and therefore they all died. In other words, my father, uncle, and my brother all died with the disease. So it's actually a 50-50 chance, supposedly, but it always seems to be worse than that. And it certainly was in my family. There was no one who tested negative. So it has been devastating for my family, as it has for so many other hidden families around the world. Now, I say hidden because so many of these families hide the disease because of a horrible history of shame and stigma that's gone back centuries now.
Which is why you do so much public speaking. I want to put onto the screen a picture of you and your brother John. It must have been devastating, though, when you tested positive, given everything you had actually witnessed at close quarters with the family.
Well, with my father to start with, and then my brother, yes, it has always been a hideous conveyor belt for Huntington's families, in that you see your loved one going through the devastating symptoms of this disease, which amount to a combination of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's and cancer. So it's a horrible, slow disease which you see knowing that you will probably have the same fate until now.
That is quite something to have to live with. Just briefly on this point, in terms of your symptoms, I said in the introduction 20 years ago is when you had the test.
Yes.
Where are you now?
I'm in the early stages of the disease. It's a very complicated disease. It's one which manifests itself in the later stages, but what I'm experiencing now are the early stages, which means that I have difficulties with things like multitasking and so on. And that is what we would regard as pre-manifest. Up until now, but we're understanding so much more about this disease and the complexities of it, and how in fact we can actually start to intervene much earlier with the disease.
Will you bring me around to today's report, which is quite extraordinary in terms of your reaction to that moment, and also tell me a little more about your involvement, because you're not just an advocate, you've been involved at different stages in terms of the medical testing, blood that they have used in various research.
Yes, indeed. This is a fantastic moment, and it is only the product of an extraordinary global collaboration between scientists led by people here in London at UCL, so it's a great London success story from that point of view, but also around the world, people who, like me, are about to undergo the symptoms of Huntington's disease, giving blood and other biomarkers, as they're called. Biomarkers are a kind of way of measuring a disease's progression for the authorities to be able to tell whether they should or shouldn't license a drug. And the gathering of these biomarkers, in particular blood, which has produced something called neurofilament light, which has been absolutely pivotal in this new treatment from Unicure.
We heard at the end of that report that the hope is it will be licensed and licensed quite quickly. Does that offer you any hope? I'm not quite sure. For people already who have tested positive, what are they saying to you about access to this, whether it would help you in your situation?
Well, yes, but the news is even better than that, because I don't think I or everyone else is reliant on this extremely expensive treatment, because what actually this has shown is that the whole principle of what's called Huntingtin lowering. Now, Huntingtin is the protein which causes the disease when it's built up, and this whole process of Huntingtin lowering is the what's behind this new development from Unicure. But it's also the case that is in other drugs, one of which is a small molecule, which means it's a pill, and I'm on the trial of that now. That is aiming for the same goal, and if that can work, we can then have this available to across the world, this Huntingtin lowering, which is an amazing step today.
Well, Charles, that is a great place to end. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in to speak to us on a day like today. Great to actually have you here on the programme.